Happy holidays. Today, on a very special holiday interview, I'm going to share some of my random memories of Christmas in Kingsley. In the 50s, I vaguely remember the annual school Christmas program. I can remember hanging out in our classrooms, in costume, waiting for our chance to perform on stage. It seems that a lot of our costumes had some sort of reindeer theme. Getting ready for Christmas at home was a big deal. Dad would go up into the garage attic and pull out the outdoor nativity scene. We used to buy those stencils for our windows. You'd slap them on a window and apply some sort of soapy substance to them, and then you'd have a nice white Christmassy stencil. There were no Toys R Us stores back in the 50s. As kids, we couldn't wait for the Sears, Montgomery Ward's, or J.C. Penney's winter catalogs to arrive. They each had about a dozen pages devoted to new and exciting toys. Of course, we also checked out the toys in Sioux City. Yonkers department store usually had several aisles of new toys. Yonkers was also where we usually went to see Santa Claus. As I recall, his throne was usually in a window display. There were several hobby shops in Sioux City also. One was downtown, while another was out at the Sunset Plaza. And then sometime in the 60s, the big superstore opened in Sioux City, which was really impressive at the time, with all the toys and such. Besides building a lot of models, my brother was big into Lionel trains. Lionel also made great chemistry sets, which I loved. My brother had a train room in our basement, while I had a small lab in an adjoining room. The girls were big into Barbie dolls and playing house. On Christmas Eve, we would start out the evening by visiting our grandparents, Simon, Allie, and Gable, who lived 2 doors down. Grandma's sister Phyllis lived in Sioux City during the 50s, but she would always join us for the holidays. The tradition in our family was to open gifts on Christmas Eve, rather than wait until Christmas morning. We were fortunate in that we were usually one of Santa's first stops. I'm not really sure how many other families in Kingsley opened presents on Christmas Eve. I think the reason we did it revolved around midnight mass. For one thing, anyone who got a new coat or purse could show them off at midnight mass. The other possibility was that we kids would have new toys to keep us energized so that we would stay awake for midnight mass. Anyway, we started out at Grandma's to open presents. That really wasn't much fun for us kids. Grandma always had one of those pink or silver Christmas trees. We preferred real trees, with the colored bubble lights and lots of tinsel. Almost all the gifts under Grandma's tree were for Grandma. She taught piano lessons, so most of the presents were gifts from her students. However, each of us kids usually got a box of turtles from Grandma. Those were those caramel and nut candies covered in chocolate. Pretty good. Meanwhile, while all this was going on, Dad would sneak out to assist Santa with any last-minute presents at our house. This usually involved assembling stuff like toy gas stations made out of tin or the occasional bike or tricycle. Sometimes, in an effort to stall for time, Aunt Phyllis would load us kids into the Buick, and we would drive around town in search of Santa. Finally, we would return home and go to town on all the presents. With 5 kids, an aunt, and a set of grandparents, there were usually a bunch of presents to go through, and lots of new clothes to model for the other family members. Over the years, we developed a few new traditions, especially as we started to go to college and return home for the holidays. For one thing, we used to set up a card table in the living room and dump out the pieces of a humongous puzzle. Then everyone would gather around and socialize as we put the puzzle together. We also played board games and card games from time to time, but I always preferred the puzzle. That was a lot more fun than the shoot-'em-up video games they have right now, as far as I'm concerned. Of course, one of my enduring memories was of the music at midnight mass. Mom was the church organist for 60 years. My sister Kathleen played flute, Mike played the trumpet, and Mary Ann played the violin. And they would come home from college to play along with Mom, who usually had a great sounding choir prepared for midnight mass. I've been all over the world and I've seen lots of churches, but St. Michael's Church at midnight mass in the 70s could hold its own against any of them. As Dad, Teresa, and I would sit downstairs, and during communion time I would savor the sounds of silent night, probably my favorite Christmas carol. It's a memory I'll always cherish. Anyway, those are my memories of Christmas in Kingsley, and I hope I've managed to stir up a few similar ones from your own past. Hope you and yours had a Merry Christmas and wishing you all a Happy New Year's. And stay tuned for future episodes.